What happens when a young, fearless conservative steps onto the set of a show that's been called the most hostile place for Republican women? You get one of the most explosive media clashes in recent memory. But this time, something was different. Caroline Leavitt wasn't there to back down. She was there to fight. Within minutes, the hosts of The View realized they had made a huge mistake. They tried to cut her off. They tried to discredit her. But Caroline wasn't having any of it. This wasn't just a debate, it was an ambush, and what happened next sent shockwaves through the media world. Was this the moment that exposed The View for good? And why is the mainstream media suddenly panicking? Stay tuned, because this story is just getting started. Before we dive into the chaos that unfolded on live television, let's talk about the woman at the center of it all, Caroline Leavitt. Because trust me, The View had no idea what they were up against. Caroline isn't just some random commentator. At just 26 years old, she's already made waves in Republican politics. A former MAGA man White House staffer, she became one of the youngest ever congressional candidates, running in New Hampshire's 1st District. And while she didn't win, she gained something arguably more valuable: national recognition as a bold, unapologetic voice for conservative values. She's now the spokesperson for MAGA Inc., meaning she's not just speaking for herself, she's representing a movement. And when The View invited her on, thinking they could walk all over her like they've done with past conservatives, well, they were in for a rude awakening. Because unlike others who tried to play nice, Caroline came prepared. She knew their tactics, she knew their playbook, and when they tried to control the conversation, she turned the tables on them. But before we get to that explosive showdown, let's talk about why they invited her in the first place. Because trust me, this wasn't a friendly invitation. Now here's the thing. The View doesn't just bring on conservatives for a fair debate. No, they invite them for one reason and one reason only: to turn them into a punching bag. And this time was no different. Caroline Leavitt was invited under the guise of a conversation about the 2024 election, Donald MAGA Man's campaign, and the future of the Republican Party. Sounds reasonable, right? But anyone who's watched The View before knows that's never how it plays out. Producers carefully select conservatives who they think will crack under pressure. They cut their mics, talk over them, and twist their words. And when all else fails, they play the fact-check game, where they conveniently leave out key details to make their guest look bad. But Caroline, she wasn't about to fall for their trap. Even before stepping onto that stage, she knew what was coming. And instead of walking into the lion's den unprepared, she came armed with facts, confidence, and a strategy to turn the entire segment on its head. And let's just say, when the camera started rolling, it didn't take long for things to get heated. The second Caroline opened her mouth, the tension was off the charts. She barely got her first sentence out before the interruption started. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hostin all jumped in, laughing, scoffing, trying to drown her out. Classic View tactics. But Caroline didn't flinch. Instead, she did something none of them expected. She hit back, and hard. When Joy Behar accused her of pushing dangerous rhetoric, Caroline didn't get defensive. She doubled down. She pulled out hard facts, statistics, direct quotes, backing up every claim before the host could even twist her words. Then came Whoopi's turn. She tried to shut Caroline down by claiming, well, the American people don't agree with you. But Caroline, she fired right back. Actually, Whoopi, the polls say otherwise. And that's when she pulled out the receipts. Recent data, polling numbers, undeniable proof that left Whoopi stunned. The audience, who usually cheers against conservative guests, actually went silent. The View hosts weren't just losing control of the conversation, they were losing control of the entire show. And that's when they pulled out their last-ditch effort, the oldest trick in their book. The one thing they always do when they feel a conservative is winning. Just when it seemed like Caroline was gaining the upper hand, The View did what they always do. They cut her off. At first, it was subtle. Joy Behar started talking over her, Whoopi loudly sighed, and Sunny Hostin threw in a sarcastic, "Okay, sweetie." But when none of that worked, boom. Caroline's mic mysteriously got quieter. Her words were suddenly drowned out by crosstalk, and within seconds, the producers conveniently had to cut to commercial. And when they came back, Caroline's entire argument had been erased. The conversation had moved on, and the hosts were already spinning the narrative. Whoopi was shaking her head, saying, "See, this is what happens when people come on with bad faith arguments." Joy was smirking, telling the audience, "We all just love when people make up statistics, don't we?" And Sunny? She flat out dismissed Caroline's points as dangerous misinformation. The worst part? The audience, now back on The View's side, cheered. They hadn't heard the facts Caroline brought up. They didn't see how the hosts had dodged every legitimate point. All they knew was the version the show wanted them to see. And that's when the media took over, spreading their version of the story before Caroline even had a chance to respond. Things were already spiraling for The View, but then came the moment that exposed them for good. As Caroline kept calling out their contradictions, the panel panicked. They couldn't handle the heat, so they did what they always do. They tried to shut her down. Sunny Hostin, clearly flustered, snapped, "Okay, but let's be real. You're just repeating Republican talking points. Classic tactic, right? When they can't win on facts, they label you as a puppet." But Caroline, she wasn't having it. With fire in her eyes, she shot back, "No, these are my own words, something you don't allow conservative women to have on this show." Boom! Mic drop. The audience? Dead silence. No cheers, no claps, just awkward stares. Even the hosts looked stunned. But instead of letting her finish, they did the unthinkable. They cut her off again. Whoopi tried to steer the conversation, Joy rolled her eyes, and Sunny just kept talking over her. It was a full-blown meltdown. And the more they tried to silence her, the more they exposed their own hypocrisy. Because here's the thing. This wasn't just about Caroline. This was about every conservative who's ever been silenced on that show. And the audience, they saw it all. The fallout began immediately. Within hours, Fox News' Greg Gutfeld weighed in, and let's just say, he didn't hold back. Calling The View an echo chamber disguised as a talk show, he ripped into their blatant bias and inability to handle real debate. Gutfeld didn't just criticize them, he dismantled them. He pointed out how The View's hosts consistently talk over conservative guests, cut their mics, and twist their words, all while claiming to be champions of free speech. "It's not a debate," he said. "It's a public execution, and they're the executioners." Ouch. But Gutfeld wasn't alone. Social media erupted. Clips of the showdown went viral, racking up millions of views within hours. Memes flooded the internet, mocking The View's epic failure to control the Yuki Up narrative. One viral post read, "The View, where free speech goes to die." Another showed a split screen of Caroline speaking confidently, while the host looked visibly flustered with the caption, "When the echo chamber meets a brick wall." The #DarnedExpose. The View started trending, with users sharing their own experiences of watching the show's blatant bias. Even some moderates started questioning The View's credibility. Comments like, "Why can't they just let her speak?" and "This is why I don't watch mainstream media anymore," dominated the conversation. People were fed up with the one-sided narratives, the constant interruptions, and the outright dismissal of anyone who didn't toe the liberal line. The View wasn't just losing the battle, they were losing the war. Their credibility was crumbling in real time, and there was no way to spin it. And Caroline, she became the face of a movement, a symbol of what happens when you refuse to back down. Her viral moment wasn't just about one TV appearance, it was a rallying cry for conservatives everywhere. She showed that you don't have to play nice to win, you don't have to apologize for your beliefs, and most importantly, you don't have to let the mainstream media define you. But the internet wasn't done yet. Conservative influencers, independent journalists, and even some unexpected voices from the left piled on. YouTube creators dissected the segment frame by frame, exposing every interruption, every mic cut, every eye roll. Podcasters debated whether The View was even relevant anymore. And the more people talked, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about Caroline. It was about every conservative who's ever been silenced, mocked, or dismissed by the mainstream media. The View tried to brush it off, but the damage was done. Their ratings took a hit, their social media comments were flooded with criticism, and their carefully crafted image of balanced debate was shattered. Meanwhile, Caroline's star was rising. She gained thousands of new followers. Her interviews were in high demand, and her message was resonating with people across the country. The internet had spoken, and The View had no answer. Desperate to save face, The View went into full damage control mode. First, they edited the episode before posting it online, cutting out the most explosive moments. But the internet never forgets. Clips were already everywhere, and their attempt to rewrite history only made them look worse. Then came the statement from ABC: "We support all voices and encourage respectful dialogue." Respectful? Really? This is the same network that's cut off every conservative guest they've ever had. The hypocrisy was laughable. Left-wing media outlets like MSNBC tried to spin the narrative, calling Caroline aggressive and disrespectful. But here's the kicker: it didn't work. People saw through the lies, the mainstream media was losing control, and they knew it. Because in the age of social media, you can't just silence someone and expect no one to notice. The truth always comes out. Caroline's takedown wasn't just a viral moment, it was an expose. It revealed how shows like The View claim to support women's empowerment, but only if those women fit their political agenda. Conservative. Women? They're silenced, mocked, and dismissed. It's a double standard that's impossible to ignore. They preach tolerance and inclusion, yet their actions scream the opposite. Caroline's showdown wasn't just a win for her, it was a wake-up call for anyone who's ever been shut down for daring to think differently. But here's the bigger story: legacy media is crumbling. ABC, CNN, MSNBC, they're all losing influence. Viewers are tired of the bias, the spin, and the outright manipulation. Meanwhile, alternative media is on the rise. YouTube, independent journalists, conservative networks, they're giving people the voices they've been craving. Platforms that allow real debate, real diversity of thought, and real accountability. And The View? They're stuck in the past, clinging to a dying model that's losing relevance by the day. This isn't just about one TV argument, it's about the future of media. If conservative voices can't even speak on daytime TV without being attacked, what does that say about our democracy? It's a question we can't afford to ignore, because when only one side gets a microphone, we all lose. After the fiasco, Caroline didn't just walk away, she doubled down. Announcing her next big play, she revealed plans to reinstate 440 journalists who were banned under Biden's administration. This was huge. It meant breaking the legacy media monopoly on White House press briefings and giving power back to independent voices. The View's reaction? They ignored it. But don't be fooled, they knew this was a major loss for their side. Because Caroline wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for everyone who's been silenced by the mainstream media. And with every move, she's proving that the old guard doesn't get to control the narrative anymore. So who came out on top? Let's break it down. The View ended up looking like bullies who can't handle real debate. Their credibility took a massive hit, and their audience, they're starting to see the cracks. For years, The View has positioned itself as the voice of progressive values and inclusive dialogue, but this showdown exposed the truth. They're anything but inclusive. The constant interruptions, the mic cuts, the smug dismissals, it all added up to a glaring display of hypocrisy. And viewers noticed. Social media was flooded with comments like, "If this is how they treat guests, why should we trust them?" And The View doesn't want debate, they want an echo chamber. Even some of their loyal fans began questioning whether the show had lost its way. Caroline Leavitt, on the other hand, gained national attention and strengthened her brand. She didn't just survive The View's ambush, she thrived. Her unapologetic confidence, razor-sharp comebacks, and refusal to back down made her a symbol of resistance. She became the face of a movement, a reminder that you don't have to play by their rules to win. Her viral moment wasn't just about one TV appearance, it was a rallying cry for conservatives everywhere. She showed that you can stand your ground, speak your truth, and come out on top even in the most hostile environments. But the real winner? The truth. Because for the first time in a long time, people saw the media's bias for what it really is. The View's meltdown wasn't just a bad day on TV, it was a microcosm of everything wrong with mainstream media. The selective editing, the narrative control, the outright silencing of opposing voices. It was all laid bare for the world to see. And that's a victory for everyone. It's a wake-up call for viewers to question what they're being fed and seek out alternative voices. It's a reminder that the truth doesn't need a microphone to be heard, it just needs a platform. In the end, this wasn't just about Caroline or The View. It was about the future of media, the power of free speech, and the importance of standing up for what you believe in. And if that's not a win, I don't know what is. So here's the big question: is this the end of The View? Or will they keep doubling down on their bias until they're irrelevant? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more explosive media takedowns. This isn't just a story, it's a movement, and you're part of it. Let's take back the narrative.